All right, transmission is clean, and I now have dry pants on. So, working on getting this thing mounted. Jeez. So I'm trying to figure out which mounts that I have, because this thing will actually bolt up, supposedly. This thing will bolt up to 3 of the mounts, because 3 of the mounts are on the transmission. So I'm actually building solid mounts for this thing, so I can, if I get all those 3 mounts in, that pretty much locates my engine for me, and I can start working on the 4th mount, and then I can slowly remove each mount and build it. The one that doesn't fit is the one that goes to this side of the engine. This one over here. Frankenstein makes a mount, and maybe someone else makes a mount, but I'm just building solid mounts for this thing because I don't want any rubber on it. I want it to be, you know, it's going to be a race car. So that's what I'm working on. So I got to figure out which mounts go on the transmission. This one's already on here, so that's good. And then I got to try and bolt this thing up. I think there's some block clearancing that needs to be done in a couple spots, but I just need to get this thing on here so I can put the engine in the car. And my buddy Kenny's coming down with his MR2 this weekend, so I want to get this in there so that I don't have it, you know, on the floor or wherever. It'll just be out of the way. So I'm also kind of going through here and seeing, you know, what I can take off, and what's, you know, what I'm not going to need and whatnot, and, you know, looking at some of the cables and stuff. But I noticed, what is this thing? It's like not connected to anything. It looks kind of like a mount, but I can tell you it's one of those. It's one of these like weights, rubber weights to take some sort of vibration out of the chassis. Look at that. Oh man, that's got to be, man, I bet that's like 3 pounds, maybe 4 pounds. That is heavy. Don't need that. This is pretty much ready to go. I can bolt. So here's one mount here. Here's the mount for one of the transmission sides. And then I need to go ahead and bolt. I need to go ahead and bolt that one on there probably. Or the other way around. I don't know. This, I got all these different mounts. You know, I got this one and this one are the same, but they're a little bit different. This one, I'm not even sure what that goes to. This one goes on the firewall, you can tell. But then both of these don't have the little thing, is not even in there. You know, so I don't know. We'll see. Oh my goodness, I have been screwing around with trying to get this dowel pin out forever. There was one in the engine that I got out. I'm having a problem trying to figure out where this thing actually lines up. So, but this dowel pin is just, won't come out. So, it done messed up. About to get the heat. So I got the transmission lined up and saw where I needed to cut. You got to cut some little chunks here and there out of the block in order to get the S54 transmission to fit. So that's what's going on here. Alright, some of you are going to hate me for this, but this bolt needed to be, or this hole needed to be drilled out to accept a 12mm helicoil because it's not drilled from the factory, it's not threaded from the factory. But it's too big to just put a 12mm tap through there. So you got to get the helicoil, which requires drilling it out. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what if I don't have to buy the helicoil? So I grabbed a 1/2 inch 13 tap, and it fit right in there, and it cut the threads perfectly. I mean, it was the perfect size hole for that tap. So it might be for finer thread 1/2 inch as well. I don't know, but that works for me. It saves me a few bucks there. All right, I was having a heck of a time struggling with trying to get this transmission placed down there on the floor. So, thought, what if I put it, did I just whack that thing? What if I put it on something and I can bring the engine to it? All right, it is together and hanging off the engine. It's a little light on bolts. We got one here. We got one big guy over here, the 1/2 incher, and we got one right here. But that's it, 3 bolts. So when I pull this thing back out and before I put the clutch on and everything, we're gonna end up making some more bolts work. Like down here, I saw one guy, he built this up a little bit right here on the transmission side and then drilled it, tapped it so you could put a bolt through here and here. All right, so I got this thing way up here, probably because of my beefed up pallet jack or whatever you call this thing, dolly. But we got to get the cross member there, suspension cross member, out of the way. That's dead on. So I got the engine in there. I got the engine level. So now I'm trying to figure out what to do with this far side mount. I'm going to make that, instead of messing around and putting all the other mounts in, I've got it positioned in there where I want it. So this is the part that came off of the block. Pretty extensive chunk of aluminum. And then this is the part what was part of the old mount, I think. So I'm trying to figure out, am I going to make this piece and go straight to the frame? Or am I going to make this piece that bolts onto here? Kind of leaning towards this because it's going to be easier to make this plate than it is to make this, because this has all these different spots. It kind of snakes in there and fits in there. The only thing that sucks is that this takes up a lot more room than this does. If I could go with a mount without this, I'd have a lot more access to the belt and stuff in there. So kind of torn here. Good morning, everybody. I've been out here in the shop for a little while getting the fire going and finishing building this mount. And here's what I got. I got it hanging for paint right now. Had to drill some speed holes in it, but I'll show you when I get it in there. I started with this, I made this top plate first. You saw me do that, bolted it down, and then I made these two plates here that fit inside the bracket, and the bolt slides through here, or the other side, I think. No, it's this side. So the bolt goes through here, and then I knew I had to box this up to make this part rigid, but then I was thinking, you know, then you still have a vulnerability where it bolts to the block, you know, it could bend this whole thing up. So putting this stiffener in here, I think will prevent that from happening. Back from the hardware store, I just dropped this thing in here. It's still pretty tacky. It's actually even kind of wet in some spots, but anyway. So all those bolts go in super easy. The hard one is going to be this long one. It's got to go through that hole down there. So we'll see how difficult this is. That's it. It's in. All right, that's it. On the next episode, we are going to be working on the steering wheel disconnect. That's what's in the lathe right here. So yeah, tune back in for a future episode with that content. Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.